everybody, welcome back to the Consummate Athlete Podcast. I'm Molly Herford. I'm the author of the Shred Girls series, and I run shredgirls.com in addition to this podcast.
And I'm Peter Glassford. I'm a registered kinesiologist and an endurance coach, and you are here on the Consummate Athlete Podcast.
And today we are celebrating the release of the first in the Shred Girls series, Lindsay's Joyride. It is now available on Amazon, wherever books are sold, or over on shred-girls.com, where you can get that plus a bunch of other cool t-shirts, caps, various swag, or just read really inspiring interviews with tons of different Shred Girls in real life and get some great advice from them, as well as some, video tutorials and tons of other fun stuff. So I'm super excited about this series. It's all about getting young girls onto bikes, excited about bikes, loving bikes, and just really helping them, lead these happy, confident lives.
And reading. They're also
reading.
Excited about reading, hopefully.
Yes, as a former non-athletic bookworm turned very athletic bookworm, the reading is also a very important part to me. But really, getting kids active is a huge passion of mine. And I mean, getting people active, I'd say, is a huge passion of ours. That's why we do what we do on this podcast and, in our everyday lives for work as well.
For sure.
So today, as a bit of a celebration around the book launch, we wanted to look back and visit a few of the Shred Girls in real life that we've had on this podcast in the past. And so we went back, we looked in the archives, we found a few of our favorite episodes with just amazing women who are doing really cool stuff. And we went through and we pulled a few of our favorite bits and pieces. Peter, can you give like a spoiler on what one of your favorite moments was?
There was Katarina Nash. I always like listening to her. She has such vast experience from cross-country skiing and then also from cycling.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this before. She might have gone to the Olympics more times than pretty much anyone else that we could think of, because she's been to both winter and summer games multiple times.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We also had Sheila Tormina on, who went many times as well, but I do think Katarina is definitely, and she went to both games, which I think is also a little different.
Mm-hmm. Sheila probably has more races under her belt though as a swimmer, because you would do multiple races in an Olympic event.
I guess that's the context of the game, but
wow, we've had a lot of Olympians on this podcast. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I always joke that they all want us to get a dog. So
it's true. Yeah, if you're an Olympian, you've probably made a vote that we should get a dog. That's actually my favorite of any of the times we've had Katarina on, is that she's very on board with us getting a dachshund. So that's probably my highlight. But I think we have her talking about something else in this episode. We also hear from Ellen Noble, who, everybody knows is one of my closest friends, one of the most decorated cyclocross racers in the world right now in the women's field, and just has so much fantastic advice and, just doing really amazing things, both in terms of cycling advocacy for girls and women and also racing at, the highest level you could possibly race at.
And the quote we pull out is about sort of a bad race and sort of goal setting around that, which is going to be related to Danelle Kabush is also on, and she talks about goal setting and sort of a recipe analogy that I thought was really, really helpful when you're thinking about sort of setting day-to-day goals and then having that big goal.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of on that same vein, I have a great one from Hannah Ray Finchamp, another amazing mountain bike racer, and she talks about doing a mountain bike stage race, the BC bike race, which is still on my bucket list. And we talk about sort of how you have to let go of perfectionism if you're going to actually make it as a professional athlete, because every race is going to be different. Nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect. So it's how you deal with the imperfect moments that really defines you as an athlete. So lots of really cool stuff. So I hope you love it. And if you do, definitely head over to shred-girls.com for some more great female inspiration. All right, let's dive in. All right, so up first, we have multi-time Olympian Katarina Nash talking about her last Olympics in Rio, how that race went, and then a little bit about how she structures the year and how she finds balance, even though she's loves racing and would probably ride her bike every day if she could.
I did have a really good race. I had a really good time in Rio, and it was just, I felt really good about the fact that I put myself out there once again, and reason with the fact that it's like, well, what happens if you have a bad race? You kind of bummed out and life goes on. It's like, if that happens again, well, no big deal. You know how to deal with it. So, it was really fun to go to Rio, have a good ride, and just kind of like walk away from that with good feeling. I was very close to the medal. I was right behind the two Canadians. They were fighting for the bronze medal, and not far off, but didn't reach that goal. But I keep reminding myself the feeling crossing the finish line, like just being so happy with the day where I did everything right. I didn't make any mistakes. I had a really flawless day. And, you become pretty analytical later on, and what could have done differently and this and that. And then, to this day, I just keep reminding myself the feeling across the finish line, the sense of accomplishment and excitement. And, pretty happy about that. Like once again, what you need to do, and then, like, you get more tense. But I just, like, for me, it is important to take these blocks within the year, which, that could be on any given year has been 10 to 11 months of racing. I'm not there every weekend, but I am there throughout the year quite a bit. And I'm one of those racers that, like, I like to do well. I don't, I may be tired from training and whatnot, but I don't like to show up for a race and be like, oh, this is just a training race, no big deal. Like, to me, it's like, it's a big deal, I show up for local events and I want to do well. So, but you can have that same focus for 11 months, So I do, I kind of do disappear. I do my training and local events and kind of live regular life that doesn't involve, not everything around evolves around being a professional athlete. And that's my way to relax and get prepared for the more intense part of the season.
All right, next up, we have Hannah Ray Finchamp talking all about how she learned how to get around her perfectionist tendencies by stage racing at BC Bike Race last year, funny enough, with Katarina Nash as one of her teammates.
Well, I've always loved adventure. That's kind of been what got me into sport and into Xterra. Was, as a little kid, the only way that I could kind of do that adventure and conquer things on my own was to race or be a part of these organizations. And so that's always been my love, and I think that Cliff Bar recognizes that. And so actually about 3 weeks before the race, I got the message asking, would you like to do BC Bike Race? It's like, oh my goodness, you're right. It is very out there, and it is a different type of training than I might otherwise do. But I think it's an opportunity I could never turn down, and I really hope to be able to do BC Bike Race and even other stage races in the future. It just made me better, and by that I mean I'm a perfectionist. I think many people in this sport and in high level of competition are. Mm-hmm. And after day one, it became very apparent that when you're camping and you're living out of a small bag and you're carrying all of your equipment and you're going on ferries, nothing is ever going to be perfect. And after day one, you're never going to line up on the line saying, oh, my legs feel perfect. Mm-hmm. And so to kind of shed that expectation and realize that I can have a great race when everything isn't perfect, I think set me up for the whole rest of the season for a much better outcome.
Next up, we have world champion Courtney talking about how she tackles new technical obstacles and how she learned how to ride at her own pace, plus a little bit on the importance of fueling properly.
a lot of people see that one climb as a definitive moment, and I did too. At the moment, I was like, okay, just keep going. Maybe she'll get a flat. But for me, I think I trained really hard knowing that it was going to be about staying within your comfort zone and staying within the numbers that I could do, staying within my own pace. And I trained, really specifically for this race. So that's one part of it. I think technically I spent a lot of time on the course with lines. But I also, I ate really well throughout the race. I was really mentally focused, and I stayed within myself. So I think it wasn't so much about just technical skill. It was more about the fact that I tapped it back a little bit on that climb, gave me more energy for the last half of the lap. And I had recovered on the descent and could pedal over all those routes. And I think that's actually, while it looks like you're just kind of like cruising in, it's a super physically demanding part of the course. And so I think having all those things add up gave me a little extra punch at the end. Thoughts on nutrition have really changed in the past few years. I've been paying a lot more attention to it and have really taken ownership of that process a little bit more, and also worked with a really amazing nutritionist. And for me, I think especially going into Worlds, like it is a time of year where you're really sharpening the swords and trying to be at your absolute peak. And for me, that meant really paying attention to how I was feeling on the bike, but also, I didn't have dessert for a few weeks before Worlds. That was something I was really looking forward to afterwards. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really common thing, and there's obstacles I'm terrified to go over, so I definitely connect with that. But I think the biggest thing for me is developing the skill. So I think it's easy to go out with someone who's already developed the skill and say, oh, they can do it and I can't. But if you take the steps to learn, okay, how do I go off a drop? Like, what do I physically need to do with my body? Where does my weight need to be? And get a good teacher. You start to take away some of the fear component because you start to have confidence in your ability. And I think that's the best way to combat fear, is to prepare yourself.
All right, next up we have former professional Xterra racer and amazing sports psychologist Danelle Kabush on to talk all about goal setting and visualization.
Whether it is making a team or, the long-term objective outcome goal you want, or I want to lose weight, is that when we look at sort of those, if you just set the goal like that, the reason, New Year's resolutions fail, I think I read a study where they followed a bunch of people who'd set these New Year's resolutions, and within a few weeks, a quarter of them had failed at continuing to pursue their goal. And then by 6 months, like 60% had fallen off the train. And the reasons they fail is because they don't set specific short-term goals. I call it the recipe of how to get there. So you have the long-term goal, and that's part of the recipe, like you said, losing 2 pounds a week, but that's still kind of an objective. It's like if you're going to bake banana bread. That's one of my favorites out there. You don't say, I'm going to bake banana bread at the end of the month. You still have to have the steps or the end of the day, you could say, the steps for how to do that. Step 1, and follow the recipe. And if you don't have those recipe steps to get you motivated, and the other reason you need, the first step, I guess, is having a plan, which is where coaching comes in for the athlete. But if we're using the weight example, how I'm going to do it, does it involve other people? Where, with whom, what are the potential obstacles I might encounter, or setbacks, and have a plan for those. So if people haven't thought through all these things, and they're not going to have, I guess, a guided plan for how to get there. So that's probably the first step, I would say, in a long-winded answer there. Yeah, for sure. I mean, imagery is a great skill and tool, and there's different ways, depending on what kind of learner you are, that you can even use it. Because, like you said, you sat there with your eyes closed and imagined it. So a good place to start is things you're already familiar with, or things you've done, sort of the replay visualization. There's a clip I always play of Michael Phelps, the swimmer, in my class, or you'll see interviews with his coach. And from a young age, he was told to just go home and replay the tape, I think was the way his coach talked to him. So, developing that skill, sort of replaying, great moments in your training day or in your practice or even a race is a good way to start. But then there's the individual aspect that, and then the visual part too, is that there's so many great videos online. I know we were talking cyclocross earlier, and sometimes I know for me as a mountain biker, when I'd watch, a bunch of downhill videos, it just would imprint that relaxed, fluid body language that I was aspiring to have on my mountain bike. So sometimes, if you watch a video just before going out, it kind of can help those neuromuscular connections, which is what's so powerful about imagery and visualization. That it's like you're living. You can either relive the experience and cement the skills that you've done well. You can prepare for, like you talked about your clinic, it might help allow you to prepare for those. Well, what if this comes up? What if the log scenarios are different things or questions you might get in a clinic? It's like that's the what if part. Right. But also some people, some of the athletes I've worked with, they like to write out their scripts. So if they're writers and that's the way they learn, sort of their imagery comes from sort of writing out their script. Or some people, when we're talking mountain biking, like to draw the course out on paper. So they have an actual, with key obstacles or key sections. So there's lots of different ways you can approach it.
All right, last up we have Ellen Noble, silver medalist at Cyclocross World Championships, multi-time national champion, founder of the ENCX Quest, and general all-around awesome human being, talking all about her race at Pan Am's this year and how she, looks at a bad race or a good race and how she kind of takes it all in stride and figures out how to goal set from that. Enjoy.
When you have a bad race, yes, my definition of a bad race is different now based on results-focused goals. But all I'm trying to do is still put together my best race on any given day. And that's really the only way that I think that's really all that you can focus on with racing is process-focused goals. So it's I prepared my best. I tactically did my best. I ate the best food that I could. I slept well. I rode technically well. I prepared well. All of those things, those are my process-focused goals, and those will never change. Even if they become more specific, or yes, more specific is really the best way to put it. So the process-focused goals never change. And the only way that I have results-focused goals is by saying, based on previous data and based on previous results and previous experiences, I can reasonably expect that if I have my best process-focused day, it could theoretically get me to this result. And so that's why I felt like, based on previous days, if I put together my best race, I would have to have my best race to win Pan Am's, and I didn't. So, but that's where the results-focused versus process-focused goals come in. Is I only have process or results-focused goals if I can base them off of reasonable expectations of the process.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this bonus Shred Girls episode. And again, we're celebrating Shred Girls Lindsay's Joyride finally being published. It's available on Amazon, wherever books are sold, and over on shred-girls.com. And of course, all of these interviews we have in full. So if you head over to the Consummate Athlete podcast website at consummateathlete.com, or just go to the app on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, you can look back in the archives and hear the full stories from all of these amazing women. Thanks again for tuning in, and have an excellent week. We'll see you next time.